Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I know what you're thinking. 2 Instagram Lives in one day. That is what I'm going to be doing. Lots of Instagram Lives. And I'm coming on here not to talk about a topic today. I'm coming on here to answer questions, OCD questions. So if you've got any OCD questions, ask me. And I will cover those now because I am wanting to make sure that the questions that I get sent so much in DMs, it's so much easier to answer them on here on this video format. So any OCD questions, ask me. And if for any reason I have to stop doing this Instagram Live, it's because I ordered a pizza and I do want to eat it at some point. So I'm going to be doing questions until that pizza arrives. So anything you want to know about your OCD recovery journey, or anything you want to know about any OCD questions you've got, anything you're stuck on, anything like that, tell me, and I will cover that now. As I wait for this, for the questions to start on here, I will talk very briefly about. Let me pick a topic that doesn't get done and people want to see done. Okay, wait, I was just about to, let's have a look at this. Man Viraj, I have a question about moral scrupulosity. What's the best way to do ERP when your OCD says you're immoral for real events? Well, with morals, they obviously have a tie into religious concepts. So you have to tread, when it comes to religion often, if it's linked into religion, you've got to go with uncertainty. Of you, even since you were very young, you would have been uncertain whether whatever happens to you in the religious or spectrum of things, and you were fine with that. Now you've like, I need to get an answer, but you don't need to. You can actually get comfortable with uncertainty in relation to a lot of existential and a lot of religion themes. The uncertainty really gets in there. We certainly can't apply rational thinking there because it doesn't work. If by definition religion is an irrational belief, so we can't apply rational thinking in the religion. So we have to go along with that. In relation to being moral outside of the religious spectrum, you have got people can't be good or bad just by acts they make. They are good just for being alive. That's the whole basis of unconditional self-acceptance. So when we learn that, we see that our actions are just ways we're acting, behaviors, single behaviors, but the self is an ever-changing, highly complex process which cannot be rated, which is the main part of unconditional self-acceptance, which takes time to understand, then to practice and to feel so that you can see that. What does Claire Weeks mean when she says, solve your conflict? Surely this isn't always possible. Well, yes, if you've got a conflict, for example, you're scared, terrified of touching something or going near something you're scared of, then that is a conflict. I'm not talking about just in the context here of what we're relating to with Claire Weeks, in any conflicts we were dealing with. However, with OCD, yes, the content of the thought is relevant. Often when it's misunderstood by people who don't understand OCD, they often say, don't ever go into the thought at all. Well, that's not true. You do have to go in a lot of occasions, otherwise exposure wouldn't exist. Exposure exists for a reason, because you're going into the content. If we didn't have exposure, then we would never be going into the content. So we obviously do go into the content because it doesn't unlatch otherwise. But we don't need to go into it all the time. We don't need to learn to sort of differentiate ourselves from it and to distance apart from those intrusive thoughts, urges and feelings. What is the number one rule for unconditional self-acceptance? Well, it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's not something you just say to yourself. It has to be practiced and learned. That's why the reading list is crucial, and then following through with practice. What it says on the tin is learning to accept ourselves just for being alive and human. Why do we do that? Well, we're floating on a rock through outer space. We're a collection of cells, stardust. So the only reason that the meaning of life or anything is so damn simple. It's just be alive and just live, just do that. You're fulfilling your function just from being alive. That is your function, just to be alive. So you've done everything. Anything else is just shit we've come up with. Oh, I need to buy a boat. Oh, I need to be whatever, an architect or a policeman, or I need to do such and such amount of charity work to accept myself. You don't need to do any of that. It's a bonus to do it. We obviously do it because it's exciting and we like helping others, or we like having a bigger house because it's comfortable for our families and so on, but we don't need to. We can do it as a bonus. I could save 100,000 people. I wouldn't rate myself any higher. I would think, I've had the genes and the skills and the through my own life to be in a position to be able to do that. I wouldn't say, I'm amazing because I did this. As you see in celebrity culture, in sort of Oscar speeches, people upping themselves so highly. I'm so great because you can see by the whole body language, they believe all of that. They rate themselves so highly and then come crashing down when things don't work out because they rate themselves so low. So you stay in a nice balance with unconditional self-acceptance because you're not trying to prove you're more than. You can't be more than. I could be the best footballer in the world. I'm not more than. Who says that's the way to rate a human, by football? Football would have done nothing in the caveman times, and certainly nothing in the times when we're at wars, through so much periods of the past. So you can't rate humans. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to tell you, which you've probably heard a million times already, that your live videos on Instagram have helped me in my recovery immensely. Thank you very much, Kirsten. I appreciate hearing that. I always like to hear that because although I do get told quite a bit about how it helps people, it's always nice to hear, because when you're doing all of these Instagram lives and posts and so on, it's nice to hear the feedback from people. So I really appreciate that. Thoughts on our OCD and fearing that your attraction to others or thoughts are cheating, how to distinguish between OCD fear and true boundaries. You're not going to be able to distinguish fully. You're not going to be able to get certainty on that. So you're going to have to roll with uncertainty of not knowing whether which one is real or not. And you're going to have to roll with that uncertain position without taking imminent action. I've got to end my relationship, or I've got to do this, or I'm doing the wrong thing, or whatever. You've got to just take a distance a bit and go along as best you can, sort of uncertain, doing what you think roughly. But it's always, remember, going to try and make you end the relationship, get away, all that kind of stuff. And you don't want to be going down that path. I don't answer all the questions, by the way. I cover just the main ones because some of them are quite complicated they need a lot to be spoken about, like questions, for example, how do I fix pure O? How do I cure pure O? I can't do that in an individual session. I've been so scared of it coming back. You need to welcome it coming back and accept even if it does come back, and make peace with that. If you try and run from it, it gathers pace against us. Acceptance when it comes to affecting loved ones is much more difficult. Not only you fear yourself, but you fear more. But unconditional self-acceptance will still get in on that. It's unconditional. It's a hard one. Yeah, it's further up the ladder. Of course, I found it difficult, but then when you understand the concepts and see it, it gets in very nicely just there. How do you accept it when it's disturbing like POCD? It's exactly the same, but there's many ways we do it. I cover it specifically in relation to POCD a lot in the coaching that I do, because there's a lot of information that goes into it and has to be broken down by looking at the specific case of how you're worrying about something, and look at that and change your perspectives on that and the different things. And it's all the same, but it's just you want to start on the lower ones of acceptance till you can move up to that position. It's like looking up at Mount Everest when you've never even climbed up a flight of stairs. Currently feeling like I can't deal with this alone. Probably fear of doing too much reassurance. Well, I don't really understand that question, so you're going to have to put that in a bit more information. Do people who don't have OCD have unconditional self-acceptance? No, most people, 99% of humans, have conditional self-acceptance. They accept themselves as long as they fall within the boundaries of what society allows and so on, and what they think of themselves. They don't have that. Some do, but they tend to have conditional. The unconditional is like, say you had your son, you say you've got a son and he commits a crime, you're not going to not love him because love's unconditional. You can see that. You could have a family you don't get on with, you'll still love them. So it's unconditional. I'm teaching you to love yourself and accept yourself in the same way. How do you expose fear of fear? Well, feeling fear, getting comfortable wearing it like an uncomfortable coat. That's it. But then there's more to it, obviously, how it impacts your life and the things you're scared of, going into those in detail and seeing what they are and how they relate to you and breaking that down. Yes, is worry that you're going to forget everyone and everything around you from OCD? Absolutely. That's a very common one. They started getting stuck in my mind at one point. Why did they not stick before? Because it's just the nature of how the disorder caught on. For me, that was around about the age of 17. Don't worry about trying to work out why you got it and what it's catching on and so on. OCDs come back, setbacks, very common. Loads of setbacks along the journey. You'll have the journey involves that all along the way. And so I prepare people to understand that there will be a lot of setbacks on the journey, so that we'll welcome that in and expect that to occur. Some people just don't give a fuck. I don't know if that's unconditional acceptance. Yeah, some people don't give a fuck. No, that's different. That's a slightly different situation. I'm scared that I can't deal with this alone, that I need to depend on others. Well, you need to get used to accepting that on your own and seeing that and take the risk. Often that's the fear there is like depression or suicidal OCD. You need to get used to maybe you can of taking the risk on your own. Does OCD always try to come back? It does tend to try and come back often, but not always. Been diagnosed with OCD since I was young and on medication, but been having bad intrusive thoughts the last few days. Don't know what to do or how to. It's a broad question. I will try and cover that on the page, but I can't do sort of how to recover from OCD or how to fix PRO as a question, because obviously it's too broad. Okay, any more questions? Keep them coming across. Real event OCD is exactly the same. Unconditional self, life and other acceptance gets under there. How does your coaching work, and is there a waiting list to get it? There's a waiting list of only 1 or 2 weeks. So it's all done by Skype. So we have one-to-one and group coaching. So you've just got to email me or direct message me and we can organise that. OCD can be about anything. That's absolutely right, Sophia. What is a good way to get self-confidence back? My OCD is very rare now, but I still deal with these scars. Well, again, acceptance gets you to accept yourself, so you don't feel that you have to be anything else, and that gets under that. And then you become more confident as that builds up and you start living life again without being held back. Why do the books on the reading list beat OCD even though they're not specific to OCD? Well, I specifically didn't put books into OCD in there because I don't think there is a book that fully covers how to recover from OCD, hence why I'm writing a book on that. The closest to it would be Albert Ellis's book, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, combined with the works of Claire Weekes' Self-Help for Your Nerves book. They aren't specific to OCD, but give a good broad spectrum of how to deal with things, but it needs to be all tailored, which is what I'm doing in my book. What if your OCD thoughts are different to most OCD sufferers? Everyone thinks that. I'm sure if I heard your OCD thoughts, I would have heard them before, I imagine. They will always tell us ours are real and different and we're alone and other people have got different ones to you and so on and so on. That's how it works. So I have OCD. Whenever my friend does mischief or something bad, I have these thoughts like whether I was involved, like I know he did that mischief. Well, the fear there is if you did some kind of mischief or wrong act and not being able to accept yourself, learning to make peace with that and learning to change your perspective, one of the very key points here of the wrong act. So when we can change that and make that more rational, then it's easy to then accept it and digest that. Otherwise, trying to accept something you think is awful or terrible without a change in perspective on it, you can't accept it and make peace with. For anyone just joining now, I'm not just sitting quiet looking at myself on Instagram Live as a kind of selfie. I'm waiting for questions to build up and then answering them in one go. Okay, thanks. What's the best way to explain to the doctor what type going through to get the right help? The doc always assumes I have GAD and doesn't prescribe meds. You're going to have to explain to the doctor as best you can about OCD and how you're feeling so that they can give you the right help. Often OCD is misdiagnosed for GAD, often just any anxiety is misdiagnosed for GAD as all sort of blanket terms, but obviously there's more to it than that. Is it normal to get OCD blurry images? Of course, in the imagination upset you because you can't remember with perfect accuracy what you did on February the 16th in 1994 at 8:30 p.m. where you were standing or whatever. The whole situation is going to be different to how you imagine it to be. But OCD always tells us, no, you must know. It's your responsibility to know. It's how it plays it out. Any last questions today, guys, that you want to ask me on here? I'll do one more question. How to get over POCD is a broad question. I will definitely cover that in... POCD is a tricky one because it's not so easy to cover in Instagram Live. It needs quite a bit of information in relation to it, and to explain that is not the easiest in relation to people's problems, and then people get scared and find it difficult to understand. So it's much better. I always tend to do that one in a coaching setting because it's difficult. Same as if someone said to me, how do I get over contamination OCD? I'm trapped in my house for 20 years. Explaining that over the phone, over Instagram Live is not the easiest because you need to work through a lot of things that relate to them as an individual case. Okay, guys, great to see you all here, and I will see you on the next Instagram Live.